This is the sliding compound miter saw safety review. Just like every tool in the shop, and the shop in general, you should wear safety glasses. Like all the time. That's the rule. On here though, you should also wear hearing protection. And if you're around it, you should wear hearing protection, only when it's running. Hearing protection's over there, by my office. You should wear hearing protection. Okay? You should always keep your fingers at least 6 inches away from the blade. 6 inches, it's like this, man, hang loose. 6 inches away from the blade. That's a safe distance to keep your fingers away from the blade. If you ever want to cut multiple pieces of material on here, you could set up a stop block. What's a stop block? I'll show you. You could take a piece of material like this. You could take a clamp. Like this. And you could clamp it to the table, measured of course to where you want it. Now, you take your material, bump it up to your stop block, you could cut it. Once you're done, you could take another piece of material, bump it up to your stop block, you could cut it. That's a good way to get repetitive cuts. The sliding compound miter saw is named that for a reason. It slides and it makes compound cuts. When cutting, you always slide it towards you, then you cut down, and then you cut back. You would never cut down and then slide it towards you. You slide it towards you first, down, and then back. This is made for cutting across the grain. It's for cross cutting. Here's a piece of wood. It's plywood, but it works for this demonstration. This is the grain of the wood. You can see the lines in the wood. It's made to cut across the lines. We would never want to cut this direction. That's cutting with the grain. That would be called ripping. We would use something called a table saw to do that. This saw is only made to cut across the grain. It's for cross cutting. Material must always be against the fence. This back section here is called the fence. It must always be against the fence of the miter saw. We always want to make sure that the table is clear of debris. We would never want to come up to the miter saw and have a whole bunch of sawdust on that saw. That would cause our material to not sit against the fence. That sawdust is holding it against the fence. We want to make sure the saw is clean of debris. The saw can be used for a lefty or a righty. I could come like this and have my right hand supporting the material here, 6 inches away, and this hand here. I could also come this way and have my right hand here, my left hand here, 6 inches away. It's ambidextrous. Lefties or righties can use this saw. Always make sure the guard is working freely before you use the saw. Okay, I can come here with it turned off, and the guard is moving freely. At my old school, I had a saw. You got to about here, and it would jam. The guard didn't work right. It had to get repaired. Always take your time when cutting through material with a saw. Nice and slow. If you go really fast, the saw could choke on the material, causing it to bind and throwing the material across the room. A slower cut is actually going to give you a finer finish, a smoother finish. When you're done your cut, turn off the saw, wait for the blade to come to a complete stop, and then bring it up. Always wait for the saw to come to full speed before making your cut. turn it on and listen to the saw. When the saw comes to a consistent sound, that means it's at full speed. I'm going to turn the saw on right now. When you hear the saw come to a consistent sound, I'm going to move my hand. Then you can make the cut. You can hear at a certain point it makes a consistent sound. Then it's at full speed, then you can make the cut.